this thing about the snake.
Ah, yes, good.
Yeah, and you were saying that the snake is like a prosecutor, right? And
No,
it
that I
can.
didn't say that.
Oh no, sorry. Okay, but I got the understanding that the snake is to make man better
Yes.
in a
Everything
way, right?
everything that God does
Uh, 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 uh.
is for the betterment of mankind.
Even by putting the snake in its
Yes.
role.
Yes.
Okay, then I
So
jump
the
to the
question is
scripture.
how?
Yeah,
How does
I
it help?
see how.
Right?
Okay, because yeah, I was
So
wondering why in scripture it says that the snake was cursed and then God took away his legs.
great
No.
question. Great
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Wonderful,
Okay.
wonderful question.
But
So
not
the
yet. It's 3:14. Genesis
yeah.
3:14.
Do you want to save it for then, or do you want to discuss it now? Either is fine. Your choice.
Okay, we'll save it because maybe we'll lead up to it.
Okay. No problem.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's such a good question
Okay.
because
Okay.
you know
Okay. No
you
more
have
questions.
yeah you have to see what is God using the snake to do. That's the
To do.
question. Because you have to remember who made the
Ah,
snake,
God made the snake.
who put the snake in the garden,
A God.
who allowed the snake to speak.
Also God.
If God didn't want the snake to speak to the people, would the snake
Uh,
have been able to speak to the people?
no, because it's not free choice, free will, right?
Right,
It
the
is God.
snake,
God.
that is
Yeah.
the crux of it. The snake does not have free will. So, what
Uh-huh.
benefit does the snake bring? Now, imagine if the snake never came. What would have
Uh-huh.
happened in the Gan Eden?
They wouldn't eat the tree of knowledge.
And what else wouldn't have happened? Because they didn't eat that tree, what wouldn't they have done?
They wouldn't have multiplied and left
Right,
the garden and
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Would they
Yeah,
ever
I
have
remember what you
died?
say. Yeah, like I love the way you say it. It's the eternal baby.
Right, that's it.
They would
They,
stay the eternal baby.
they would still be there in the garden. They wouldn't have died because they're eating from the tree of life, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they keep on living. They don't have any babies because they don't even know they're naked. That means nothing to them.
right.
And you and I
Yeah,
would never have been born
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because there would be no one to give
Uh,
birth, to give birth, to give birth, to give birth, to give birth. All of
right,
human
right, right.
history would not have happened. Now,
Yes.
those who are arguing that this is a bad thing that happened
Uh-huh.
are arguing that all of human history should never have happened,
Right, right.
right? And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and I said that to someone who said, "Oh yeah, but eventually they would have figured it out." Who says? Who says?
Mm,
You know,
mm,
God is introducing the idea of free will to the world, and
mm.
and so the snake is a tool for that. Let's get into it now, and we'll see how it comes up.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so wonderful. I'm very glad you're asking great
Yeah.
questions. So
Okay.
let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So this is
Where?
the snake speaking, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And
Yes,
previously
yes.
she has said we can't eat from this tree because when we do we die, right?
Uh-huh, yes, correct.
Which is what God said. God said,
Uh-huh.
you know, like b'yom atem akalchem
Uh-huh.
mot temet, something like that. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
That's on your slides you've got there. In the day
Yes.
that you do this, a death you will die, right?
Ah, yes, yes, yes. A
And
death you will die. Yes, yes, yes.
so actually, what God has said is two seemingly contradictory things. One, He said you can
Oh,
eat from all of the trees,
yeah, yeah.
which is true, and two, don't eat from this one because when you do, you'll die.
Yeah, yeah.
But to say in the day you will eat
Mm,
means
yes.
God knows they're going to eat.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
If He doesn't want them to eat from this tree, all you have to do is take away the tree.
Yeah.
Now, does He want them to do it or does He not? He's giving them a choice. And
Mm-hmm.
since He gave them the choice, they haven't eaten from this. Then comes the snake who says, think about it. Think about what He laid out in front of you, because they haven't really thought about it, right? And He says,
Mm-hmm.
Ki Yodea Elohim, because God knows, right? You see
Ah,
how this word here is da'at, and da'at you keep in
ah,
your rush, right?
uh-huh,
But this
uh-huh.
is the verb to know, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So God knows,
Ah.
Ki bayom, in the day, a kolchem, right? What does the chem mean?
Chem means like eaten.
Akal means to eat, but the suffix chem, do you know what?
It's plural.
It's plural, good. So you and your husband, when y'all eat from this tree, mimenu, it says vanif kachu enechem, right? Now, I'm going to tell you two things. The root of nif kachu is to open the eyes or the ears. It's not opening, like you can't use that word fakach to open a door. You can't do that. You can use it to open eyes or ears or something like that, because your eyes don't really open the way a door opens. It's a different kind of opening, right? A layer is going back, and then and it's all about perception, opening the doors of perception. What does the nun do? What's this nun? This purple nun at the beginning. What's the purpose of that? I'll show you on the binyanim. This is one of the binyanim. So there's a pa'al, simple active, pa'al, simple intensive active, hifil, causative active, right? Over here we have nifil, pu'al, hufal. Which one adds a nun out of pa'al, pa'al, hifil? Right, the nifal, right? The nifal is the simple passive. So that's not to open, it's to what?
Be opened.
Yes. So in this word, it says they will be opened. You see how the u on the end is pluralizing, right?
Open.
So they will be opened. What will? Einechem. Point to your ayin. Where's your ayin?
Ayin. Oh dear. Eyes, is it? No?
Yes, very good.
Ayin.
And it's eyes. It's eyes is ayin. And einechem is the eyes of...
Einechem. It's like your eyes.
Wonderful. So yours eyes will be opened. Notice how it doesn't say who will open them. It just says that they will be opened. It doesn't say the fruit will open your eyes or you will open your eyes. It just says the eyes will be opened. That leaves a bit of a mystery, right? Who's going to do it? Who's going to cause it to happen?
Yeah.
So in the day that you eat from, your eyes will be opened, and it says vehiyatem, y'all will be, again, not you singular, but y'all plural will be Ke'elohim. What does Ke'elohim mean?
It's not key, is it? It's care.
It's Ke'elohim.
Okay. Oh, right.
What does it mean? What does Ka mean as a prefix?
Like.
Yes. So y'all will be like God. Right? Now that makes us uncomfortable immediately, right? We're uncomfortable with that idea because it seems like arrogance. It seems like puffing yourself up. But it doesn't say it doesn't say equal to God. It doesn't say you will be God or you will be gods. It says you will be more like God. You'll be like God, right? And in what way will you be like God? You'll be like God in that Yodea Tov V'Ra. Knowing Tov V'Ra. What does that mean, Tov V'Ra?
Oh, good.
Yes, and Ra.
And Ra. And bad.
Right. Do you may know the difference between good and evil? Do I? What do we call that?
Conscience.
Right. You and me, humanity and God, know the difference between right and wrong. Foxes don't, sheep don't, bears don't. So we're more like God than a bear because we have a conscience. Right? Is that a bad thing?
No.
So it's not a bad thing. And when, in fact, God planned to make mankind, he said, Na'aseh Adam b'tzelmenu. We will make Adam in our image. This is what God meant. So she hears this and she reacts. right? So what does she do? When she hears the snake say, oh, this will make you more like God, she goes, oh, that's what God said in the beginning. I'm supposed to be more like God, right? And now I understand a choice that she's going to make is going to make her more like God in that she'll have a conscience. She'll know the difference between right and wrong. She'll have choice to choose good or to choose evil, right? That's what God planned. And God said, Na'aseh Adam Matzelmenu, we will make Adam in our image. He's going to make the person, and the person is going to choose to be more like its creator. That's what we're talking about here, right? So we go a little bit further. What does she do? It says, V'teireh ha'isha. So who's doing the verb? Teireh ha'isha.
Who's doing it?
Yeah, so we have the verb V'teireh ha'isha. Who's the isha?
Isha is the woman.
Right, so who's doing the verb?
Oh, the woman.
Right, and she's teirah. What does ru'eh mean? What does the verb ru'eh mean?
Knowledge, no.
Ru'eh is to...
Ru'eh is good.
Good. So she saw, did the woman. Ki tov ha'etz lema'achal. Now let's work out what that means. Let's start at the end and work our way backwards. What is achal?
Eat.
Good. What is ma'achal? If achal is the verb to eat, what is the noun ma'achal? Ma'poteach, mafteach.
Oh.
What's ma'achal?
Food.
Right. So this eight is the tree, and it's tov lema'achal. So v'teireh ha'isha ki tov ha'etz lema'achal. She saw, the woman saw, that the tree was good for food. V'ki, and that ta'avahu. Now ta'ava is desire or desirous, right? Ta'avahu le'einayim. It was desirous to the einayim. Right? It's beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. It's good for food, and it's nechmad ha'etz lahaskil. Now this is an amazing word, right? Haskil, right? Watch what I do. First of all, there's too many letters. Hey, sin, kaf, yod, lamed. Some of them are extra. The hey is part of the hifil. The hifil adds a hey and a yod and makes that causative. A hifil is causative. So it adds a hey and a yod. So this has a hey and a yod, but what's the root? Sekel, sin, kaf, lamed. Sekel is to be prudent, circumstant, or to understand. So because this is a causative verb, it will cause her to understand. Now the first thing I want to point out is, yes, this sounds like a pretty good tree, but she's been living with this tree in the middle of the garden. She never looked at it before. She never even looked at it. She didn't see it was good looking. She didn't see it was good for food. She didn't see that it was good for increasing her understanding, which means how holy is this woman that when God says you can't eat from that tree, not only does she not eat from it, she decides of her own accord, I can't touch it, and she didn't even look at it. That's a holy woman, right? Imagine your husband says to you, your birthday present is on the side. Please don't peek. And you never look at the side until your birthday. Months go by, and you never even look at the side, right? You have no idea what your birthday present is. And he surprises you, you go, oh! And he's like, what, you really didn't look? I didn't even turn in that direction. I didn't look at the present because you asked me not to. This is a sacred woman, right? But now, for the first time, she understands, oh, maybe this was a choice. He said you can eat from all of the trees, which includes this one. But from this one, don't, because when you do, you'll die. Why would I want to die? Because you'll become more like God, knowing right from wrong. The benefit is you get a conscience. The drawback is you have a finite lifespan. Now, because she didn't figure that out, the snake comes and explains it to her. Right? Because whatever God says will happen. So if God says you'll eat it or you won't eat it, then she doesn't have a choice. But if the snake comes, who cares about what the snake has to say? He can put forward an idea and she can still disobey it. Still her choice, right? So, v'tikach. What does kach mean? Comes from the root lakach. What does kach mean? Kach is to take.
Oh.
So if it says v'tikach, who did it?
The woman.
Yes. And she took mi prio. What's prio?
Fruit.
What? Yes. And the vav at the end with the little hat on tells you whose fruit. Mi prio. From the fruit. What's the vav with the little hat on?
Male.
Yes, male possessive. So his fruit or its fruit. Because remember, there's no distinction between he and it in Hebrew. So v'tikach mi prio, and she took from its fruit, v'tochal. What's v'tochal?
Ate.
Yes, she ate. V'titain, now there's a nun missing, because you remember the nun and the hey are weak letters. There's supposed to be a nun here, in between the tet and the taf and the taf, right? And that root would be Natan. Do you remember what Natan means?
I thought it's take. No.
Kach is take. Natan is the opposite.
Take. Opposite of take?
Is give. Give and take, right? So v'titain, and she gave gam. What is gam? Gam, do you know the gam?
The garden.
Gan, with a nun at the end is garden. But this is gam, which means also. We still use the word gam in Hebrew. Yeah, gam means also. So she gave also la isha. Now, this is a little bit confusing. I'm going to make it clear. She is an isha, right? She's an Aisha or an isha.
Yeah.
This isn't the feminine that turns ish into isha. This is the feminine possessive. So this means her ish. Who is her ish?
Herself.
No, she's an isha.
Ah.
Who's an ish?
Oh, the man.
The man. So this means she gave also to her man. It's a little bit confusing. I think that's probably one of the most confusing grammatical things in the book, right? So, but it means
why I don't understand I don't understand why is there he?
Because it's feminine possessive. It means her man.
Oh.
So with the fruit, if we want to say his fruit or its fruit, we say mi prio. But if we want to say her fruit, we'd say mi priya, or we put a hey on the end. So the masculine possessive is a vav with a little hat on. The feminine possessive is a feminine hey. Right?
Oh.
So prio is his fruit, priya is her fruit. And this is isha, her man. It's a little bit confusing because it's doubling up on something. But it says this word here, ima. Wait a second. Do you know what im with an ayin means?
Mother.
No. Very good thinking. But im with an aleph is mother. Im with an ayin means with.
Oh.
So she gave it to her man, ima. What's the hey on the end of it? Yes. Which means we've assumed it's just been the woman and the snake talking. We thought it was just them in the scene the whole time. He's been stood there listening and not saying anything.
Right.
He watched the snake speak to the thing, and he didn't say anything. He didn't interrupt. He didn't say, "Excuse me, stop speaking to my wife. You should speak to me instead." He just listened. And he listened to the snake make the case that she should eat the fruit. And she took the fruit, and she ate from it, and she gave it also to her man with her, v'yochal.
Something about eating.
Yeah, who's eating now? When it was, what did it mean when it said tochal? Who ate when it was tochal?
She ate.
Right. What is it now that it's yochal?
Yo is He ate it.
Right. She eats it, she gives it to him, he eats it. It's not like he doesn't know what's going on. She didn't sneak it into his fruit salad. He's been stood there the whole time listening to the conversation, and she eats it, and he goes, oh, and then he eats it. Because their commission, their purpose, is to go down into the world and elevate it to God, to choose good, to do good things. This isn't the world, this is Gan Eden, this is like heaven. So they're realizing...
At this very point when they both ate it, did they have that vision and mission to elevate the world?
It's not explicit. You're right. I shouldn't say that because I'm elaborating. But that's the commentary on that. This is a story from Manus Friedman. Right. So at this point, he's heard the conversation and he's decided, yes, we're obviously supposed to eat it. The explicit thing is that God said, you can eat from all of the trees of the garden. He didn't say, except this one. He said, and this one don't, because when you do, you'll die. Now, it's the same thing as if you're teaching your kid to cross the road. You say to your 3-year-old, don't cross the road without mummy, because it's dangerous. But that doesn't go for their whole lives. When they're 30, you don't want them to only cross the road with mummy. You want them to be independent, right? But it's like you need to understand. First, you need to understand the consequences of what's going to happen. And because the snake spoke up, now they understand. If we do this, the day will come when we will die. And actually, it's not because the fruit is poisonous. It's because they're going to have to leave the Gan Eden. And where is the tree of life?
Where?
Yeah.
In the middle.
Right. So if they leave the garden, they can't eat from the tree of life anymore. So they're not going to drop dead, but eventually they will die. So really this whole thing is about, do you want to live forever? Or do you want to live a life of choice? Now,
to be like God.
Right. To be like God in that you know the difference between right and wrong. Do you want to live forever as an innocent but dumb person who doesn't know right from wrong, Or do you want to become an adult, have a family, and eventually know that your family will take over and you will die? So, let's go a little further. This is what happens.
Okay.
Bum, bum, bum. Look at this word, fakach again. We learned this in the previous thing, when the 2 verses ago, when the snake said to her, Nifkachu einechem, your eyes will be opened. Right? But this time it says, Vatipakachna einei shenehem. So what does that tell you about this verb now? The root is still pakach, right? But now it's vatipakachna. What does the taf tell you?
It's a feminine.
Right. So it's not passive anymore. It's not anymore their eyes were opened. Now it says she opened. Einei shenehem. Point to your ayin. Right? So she opened the eyes of, because it's got a yod and a seireh. Yod and a seireh means of. So she opened the eyes of shenehem.
2 eyes.
2 of hem. What does hem mean?
His eyes.
Not his. Who means he.
Them, their
good,
eyes.
Good. Shenehem means the 2 of them. She opened the eyes of the 2 of them. So is this her doing something evil? Has the Torah said it's evil?
No.
Right. Even God didn't say it's evil. He said, you can eat from all of the trees, but then so this is going to result in their death. They're not going to live for any more. But it's not made any quality judgment. It's just said, and she opened their eyes. That's what she did. Because of her choice, their eyes are now opened. And it goes on to say, Vayedu. Now, what's happening here is this is the verb dat. Where do you keep your dat?
That in your head.
Absolutely. You keep your dat in your rosh. And the yod here is saying he will do it, right? The vav is saying he did it. What does the u do at the end?
Ooh, plural.
Good. So it stops being he and starts being they. they knew ki a rumim. Do you remember what a room was?
A room. Death.
No, that's mot, like checkmate. You're very close though. At the beginning of the Gan Eden, they were a room, the two of them, and they were naked. So the first thing they realize when she opens their eyes with the fruit, the first thing they realize is that they're naked. And that's not a...
because...
Sorry?
He is because, no.
They, because of the u. So the yard means he knew. The u makes it they knew. Ki arumim. Arumim is plural, so they're both naked. Right? And it says arumim hem, that they're naked, right? Then it says vayit paru, right? Now the word is down here. Tapar is to sow, right? So have a look at the grammar surrounding this word, and you tell me who is the one sowing, or who is sowing. In the case of v'tipakachna, it was she doing it, right? But here, who's doing? Tapar is to sow. Who's sowing?
He.
How do you know?
Because of the yod.
Good. What about the u?
He, masculine.
U at the end means masculine?
Plural.
Plural. So who's sowing?
Plural?
Yeah. So who's sowing?
Him.
Is he plural?
Them.
Them.
No.
Them.
No, yeah.
If you want to say they sowed, you put it in the past tense with the vav. That's the tense flipper, so that makes it past tense. You start with the he sowed and you add an u. That pluralizes he into they. Right?
Oh.
So vayit paru means they sowed.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
What did they sow? It says alei taina. Now a tain is a fig tree, right? But an alei is like a leaf. It actually comes probably from the verb to ascend, but you know, leaves ascend on the branches. So it's fig leaves. Now, if next time, please God, soon you'll visit Israel, you'll see what a beautiful place it is. But you'll also see how inappropriate most of the leaves are to making this kind of garment. Like, I don't know if you've ever been around palm trees, but they're very easy to cut yourself in a palm tree. They're all spikes and sharp bits. I cut my hand horribly making my sukkot last year because I had all these palm leaves on the top, and they're very spines and stuff. So, but fig leaves are very large and wide and soft and forgiving. So anyone who lives around here go, yeah, if I was going to do it, I'd use a fig leaf as well. Yeah, that's wouldn't want to use anything else. So they sowed fig leaves, and it says va ya'asu lehem chagorot. Now we have here as well. Chagor is a girdle or a belt. It's not a three-piece suit. This says chagorot. What does the ot do?
Rot. Like a feminine.
Good. It's a feminine plural. Good. So there's more than one chagor. There's more than one belt. Because there's more than one person. They're not sharing a garment, right? But who was it that made the belts?
Where's the hint?
Sorry, I'll just zoom in. I'll put it on the slideshow and I'll zoom in. So the verb is asa, which means to make or do. Who did it?
I'm supposed to know from this word, is it?
Yeah. This is the word to do, to make.
It's a plural.
Good.
They sowed.
They sowed. Beautiful. And it says they sow, and it says they sowed fig leaves, and they made lehem. Oops, sorry. Change the verse. Okay, get more better control over this. What does lehem mean?
Lehem. Don't know.
What does the prefix lamed mean as a prefix?
Two
yes.
or four.
2 or 4. Good. Always good to remember both those functions because we need it in English. In Hebrew, they just use the same letter, but we use 2 different words in English. Hem. Who's hem?
Hem. them.
Good. So they made for themselves, they made for themselves chagorot. Now, if you were chas v'sholem, but if you were naked in a garden and you wanted to make some clothes to cover yourself up, what are you trying to cover up with a belt?
Oh.
That is to say, what were they primarily concerned with covering up? Did they think that, they should cover their ankles or their shoulders? Primarily,
well, they used fig leaf.
Right. They used a fig leaf to cover what? If it's a girdle or a belt, what are they covering up?
To cover the belt, is it? The bottom part.
Yes, which is their primary sex organs.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make a full cloak. They're covering themselves up in this area here, which implies an understanding of sex. Because otherwise, what would if a child, a little kind of toddler, covers themselves up, they don't have any idea of sex, so they might cover their bottom because that's where the poop comes from, and that's what they're embarrassed about. Or they might be embarrassed of different things. But in order to know, this is the main thing that I should cover, they have some sort of a concept that this embarrassment is connected to sex appropriation. That's me inferring from the text. It's not explicit, but they didn't make a coat. They made a belt, and you think, well, that doesn't cover up very much at all. But they're obviously prioritizing, right? So it goes on to say, Vayishmu. Now, you know the roots, you know the grammar. I want you to sound it out. You know, in maths when you're a kid, when they tell you to show your working, right? I want you to show your working. Explain to me, please. What is this word, and how do you know what this means? So I'd start with the root. What's the root here?
Ish.
The green letter is not part of the root. The root is in black.
Yeah. Shanu.
Very close. Shin, mem. What's this letter?
Ayin.
Right, shema.
Oh, Shema?
Shema. What does shema mean?
Oh, yeah, this is I see Shema. Oh,
listen. Yes, very good. Very, very good. This is a very kind of important kind of listening, because it's the kind of listening we see consistently that changes your behavior. It's not something passive like I heard a motorbike drive past, but I didn't care. This is kind of like I listened to what was being said, right? Who's doing it and when?
It or he.
Good.
But it ends with a who.
Good.
So it's like plural.
Yes.
So it's they.
They. Beautiful. Is it past, present, or future?
I think it's not an N, right?
It's not a what, sorry?
It's not, the va is not an N. It's a tense flipper.
Right, that's right. That's right. This is a tense flipper and not an and. Okay. But it's a very good question, because there's a way to remember. If it's a future tense verb, like you has a green yod, right? So without the vav, without this tense flipper, yishmu would be they will hear. If you have a letter before the verb that tells you who's going to do it, it's a future tense verb, right? If you have a letter afterwards that tells you who's going to do it, it's a past tense, right? On a future tense verb, the tense flipper, if there's a tense flipper, it'll have a vav with a petach. This vowel here, we're going to call the tongue depressor. Like when you go to the doctors and they have this horizontal line and they say ah. It looks like that horizontal line, and it makes you say right? So this is the va. So that's a tense flipper. If it was a past tense verb, like if it said shema tem, and there was a tense flipper, it would have two vertical dots, which is called a schwa. Okay. So you want to check if this is a tense flipper. If there's a green letter, if it's a tense flipper, it's got A tongue depressor. Ah. Oh. That's the way to remember.
Okay.
So right. This is exactly as you said, Vayishmu, and they heard, et kol Adonai Elohim. Do you know what the kol of Adonai Elohim is?
Et kol. All.
Very good thinking. Kol with a curly ka is all. But kol with a harp-shaped ka, like this one, a kuf, this is a kuf, that's a voice.
Oh.
So Vishmu et kol Adonai Elohim means they heard
God's voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They heard the voice of God, and what was it doing? It tells us here, mithalek. Mithalek. So, too many letters, right? We need to get rid of some. So, what's extra? What do you think might be extra in this? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we've got to get rid of 2.
Mem.
Good, you're right. That's always a good candidate. There's often a prefix. If there's too many letters, there's often a prefix. This is a prefix. Anything else?
Hey.
No. Good thinking. It could be a prefix, but if this is a part of the word, if this taf is part of the word, you can't have a prefix after part of the word unless it's a yod or a vav. Oh, sorry, yod or a vav. So you can put a yod in the middle of a word or a vav in the middle of the word. You can't stick a hey in the middle of the word.
Oh, okay.
So if you want, all your prefix have to be at the beginning, all your suffix have to be at the end. So once you've got rid of the mem, your next two candidates are the taf and the kaf. Right? In this case, it happens to be the taf, and I'm going to tell you this just because we're learning how to do it, right? Okay. And this is part of the binyanim, part of the buildings. Right? Now let's go back and have a quick look. Which of the binyanims, which of the buildings gives you a taf? Let me read them to you. Pa'al, P'el, Hifil, Hitpa'el, Hufal, Pual, and Nifal. Only one of them can give you a taf. I'll give you them again. Pa'al, P'el, Hifil, Hitpa'el, Hufal, Pual, and Nifal.
Hifel.
Does it have a T sound in it?
Yeah.
Hifil?
No. Hifel.
No, the Hitpa'el. Hitpa'el has a T sound.
Which one is it? Number 3.
The one in the middle.
I meant that one. Yes, I meant that
one. Okay. I'll believe you. Thousands wouldn't. Okay. So what is this one? It is the reflexive. So that is when one character is doing the verb to itself. All plural characters are doing it to themselves. Like a crowd gathers, they're gathering the crowd. So they're doing that to themselves, right?
Yeah.
So this is a hit pa'el, and it's hit halek. So here we go. It's mit halek. So the root is halak. What does halak mean? Do you know this word already? Halak means to go or to walk. Now, technically it only means to go. Often people use it to mean to walk. That's absolutely fine. Most of the people in the Bible are walking. It's a long time before they get a bus, right? But so most of the going is on foot. Now, obviously, God doesn't have feet. It's not like he's actually strolling. But what he's doing is, because it's reflexive, he's going himself. Began. Now, let me explain. The hit pa'el gets rid of the need for an object. Right? In all the other verbs, the subject does the verb to the object. Like if I'm the subject and the sandwich is the object, I might eat the object, right? But when you're walking, I might walk to Jerusalem. So I'm the subject, I'm walking to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the object of my walk. I'm trying to get there.
Right.
But in a hit pa'el, to hit halek, the subject is just to walk. I'm not trying to get somewhere. I'm just walking for the pleasure of walking.
Okay.
So the walking is the purpose as well as the verb, right? So it's like a stroll. So they heard the voice of God strolling. Began. What's began?
In the garden.
Perfect. And he's doing it. L'ruach hayom. What is hayom? Hayom.
The day.
The day. And what is ruach?
The breath.
Very close. Very, very close. It is the spirit or the wind.
Spirit. The wind.
And you might not know about this, but there's a strange kind of geographical function in this part of the world that the Mediterranean is pretty much surrounded by hills and mountains. It's kind of a big flat plain that heats up in the sun. And so as it heats up in the sun, the air expands and pushes outwards. And so because the sun is going from Jerusalem to Portugal, it's heading in that direction. As the sun arrives around Portugal at midday, the air around Portugal is expanding as the air around Israel is contracting. And what you get is a warm breeze off the Mediterranean in the evening. So this may be referencing that warm breeze, which is very common. It's very pleasant to walk along the side of the sea and have this warm breeze come off the Med. It's very fresh and very, oxygenated. It's lovely. So it's implying that, God's just taking a breeze in the evening in the Ruach Hayom, in the breeze of the day. It's just lovely, right? It's very. So what is their reaction when they hear God calmly strolling the breeze? Now, does God know at this point what they've done?
Yes.
Yeah. He's not stamping around. He's not throwing lightning bolts like Zeus might do. No, he's just chilling in the breeze. He knows fully what's happening. And what's their reaction, these confused teenagers? It says, Vayitchabei. Now, in a second, I'm going to ask you to work out who is doing this and how, because it's very interesting how they're doing this, right? But to start with, I'm going to tell you what chabei means. Chabei is to hide. Right? And the phrase is Vayit chabei ha'adam ve'ishto. What does ha'adam ve'ishto mean?
The man and his wife.
Perfect. So you would assume if chaba is to hide, and it says v'yitchabei ha'adam ve'ishto, it sounds like they're both hiding, right? But tell me about the grammar. Who is doing it?
The man hid only.
Right. What does the taf mean?
No, taf is the woman too, right?
But wait, stay with it. If it was the both of them did it, what would you expect to see on the end?
Plural, u.
Right, but there's no plural u.
Yeah.
The yod tells you he hid, right? And what does taf mean?
She.
Sorry, in this case, you can't have a yod and a taf, meaning he and she. You would just put a yod and an u. So how can we get a taf in, like another word we had recently? See, this one had a taf as well. Mithalek, and this is yitchabei. So we can get this taf from the binyanim. We can get it from the buildings. Which building gives us a taf?
Just now that one, the hit pa'el.
Perfect, when the subject does it to themselves. So v'yitchabei ha'adam ve'ishto means, and he hid them, the man and his wife. So he's hiding both of them. He's the one doing it. Who's he doing it to? Both himself and his wife.
Oh, okay.
So she opened their eyes. Right?
Yeah.
She didn't just open her eyes, she opened the eyes of the both of them. He's hiding both of them from God. Right? Because it says, V'yitchabei ha'adam ve'ishto mi penei Adonai Elohim. From the face of, Yoron Etzerei means of, mi penei Adonai Elohim, from the face of God. And where does he hide them? Batok Eitz Hagan. What does Batok Eitz Hagan mean?
In between the trees.
Yes. In fact, to be specific, Tavak means middle. So Batok means in the middle of the trees of the garden. Now, what's in the middle of the trees of the garden?
The tree of life.
And the tree of?
Knowledge of good and evil.
So he hides them in the very thing that they just ate. Right. Now, we want to know what God's reaction to this is. What does he say? Does he come and say, "How dare you? Didn't I make it perfectly clear? Has that snake been hanging round again? Cheeky chappy." Or what does he say? What do you remember the Bible saying about God's reaction to this?
Why are you hiding?
So what's the word for why in Hebrew?
Why?
The word? Very close. Lama. Ma is what? Lama means for what? For what reason? For why are you doing this? For what are you doing this? So if your memory is correct, it will say Lama atem chabe. Because chabe is to hide, right? Why are you hiding? Right? What does it say? This is about the strong. Vayikra Adonai Elohim El Ha'adam. What does that mean?
Hashem saw.
Not saw, Vayikra.
Vayikra, called.
God called. El Ha'adam.
To the man.
Beautiful. V'yomer.
And said.
Lo.
No.
That's lo with an aleph. This is lo with a vav. So rather than being the word no, this is the prefix lamed and the suffix vav with a hat on. What does lo mean? Prefix and suffix. Yes, to
a male.
Yes. V'yomer lo means and said to him, Eicha. Eicha. Does it mean lama? Does this word mean why?
No.
It doesn't, right? So let's go and find it. If we, to start with, go into Safaria's translation. First thing we want to do is we go to Safaria's translation, right? And say, what does Safaria say this means? And then we'll see if we agree with it. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So the first place we want to look is, this is the first time this showed up in the Bible. So we're going to put it in chronological order and we should get our verse, right? Genesis 3 verse 9 says, V'yikra Adonai Elohim El Ha'adam V'yomer lo Eicha. So let's go and have a look. What does it tell us? It tells us God called out to the human and said to him, where are you? Right? But we're not done yet. We want to know, does this Eicha mean where? So I double click on it, get a translation, and they say A means where. Aleph Yod, right? And then they're effectively saying, the Ka means you. Okay? Eicha is where are you? Right? Now, does God know where they are?
Yeah. Yes.
So if he's saying Eicha, if he's saying where are you, why is he saying it?
Where? So he really said, where are you?
Well, we haven't decided that yet. We're saying that
okay.
Safaria is arguing that it says where, right? And if God is saying where, theoretically speaking, if God's saying where, why is he saying where are you? Does he know where they are?
Yes.
So it's not for his benefit. It's not to find out where they are. Why would it be that he would say Eicha? For whose benefit is it? For the benefit of whom? for them. So if he's saying, where are you? He's trying to get them to realize something, right? And the Adam, he replies, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Does that answer the question? He says, where are you? And he said, I heard your voice and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. That's got nothing to do with the question.
Because where are you? I'm hiding, he's trying to say.
Okay, I'll accept that. That's a very valid point. He could just be saying, I'm hiding. This is where I am. He kind of got us on a tangent beforehand. I was scared because I was naked. He tells, let's see what other possibilities are. If we search further and say, what does it mean when it shows up in other places? Let's put it back in chronological order, right? We're only looking at the Tanakh, so only look at the Hebrew Bible. First time it shows up here, it doesn't come up again until Deuteronomy, right? So Deuteronomy 1:12, does it mean where are you? Here it says, where does it say Eicha? I can't see. Oh, here, beginning of this one. It says how. How can I bear unaided the trouble of you? Eicha esa lavadi, how can I lift up alone? And it goes on. So Eicha here means how. It doesn't. Right. They don't say it means where are you. They say immediately they change their translation. Hang on, it's supposed to be the same word.
Yeah.
Let's look at the next one. The next one is Deuteronomy 7:17. Same book. Should say the same thing, right? So where is Eicha? Eicha. These nations are more numerous than we. How can we dispossess them? Dispossess them. Not where should we dispossess them to. Let's look in the dictionary and say, what does it say in the dictionary? It says how. Or an expression of satisfaction, right? So let's try one more, and I'll stop harping on about it. But let's go to a different book, because maybe it's just this book. Maybe it's only this book. So let's go to a different book. This Deuteronomy, it comes up a lot. What about in Judges? Let's look at Judges. Or you choose. Do you want Judges, Kings,
or we'll go with King.
Kings? Let's go. Let's look at Kings. Okay. Where is it? It should be somewhere here. V'yomer lekhu uru eicha. And he he said, go and find out where it is.
Where?
So there's a little bit of debate here. It's not very clear. Let's have a look in the dictionary. Somehow it can mean where, when they feel like it. Sometimes it can mean how. So it's not very clear. So what I want to ask you is, if you're in God's position, what are you asking? If you're asking where, what are you trying to get them to realize? Because he's not doing it for his own benefit, because he knows exactly where they are. It's God. It's his garden. There aren't that many places to hide, and these guys maybe aren't that bright, because they're hiding the very tree that they ate from. They haven't decided whether it's good, right? So they're naked. They're just like, they stopped to make fig leaves and then hid, right? So what are they asking if they're saying where, and what are they asking if he's saying how? If he's asking how, what is he trying to get them to know?
Like how did you find out?
Right. How did you get here? I'm finding you here. You've made belts. You're hiding in a tree. So you've clearly realized something since last time I was here. What have they realized about themselves? Sorry?
They're caught.
Yeah, but also, what have they realized about themselves?
They are naked.
They're naked. They never knew that before. He's saying, how? How is it that your self-perception is fundamentally changed? What did you do that made you realize you were naked? This is a much more interesting question than where. Where are you hiding? is a dead question. He already knows the answer. They know the answer. He could just say, "I can see you," and that would have the same result. But instead, he might.
How also he knows, right?
He already knows the answer to how, but he wants them to realize. He wants them to say it. He wants them to realize it. Oh, I picked this. I ate this fruit, and my eyes were opened. Suddenly, he's saying, think it through. Think it through. How did we get here? What did you do? He wants them to understand. In the Greek mythology, Prometheus had to steal fire from the gods. Right? He had to make it something that they had to steal, and fire was the basis of technology. In Jewish mythology, we ask the question, you need tongs to make tongs. Right? If you want to be a blacksmith and you want somebody to pick up the hot stuff with, you need tongs. But how do you make tongs? Well, you need tongs to make tongs. So the Talmud asks, where did the first tongs come from? And the Talmud answers, God gave us the first tongs and we made all the rest. That is to say, God encourages us to think and be creative. We only have one day a week where we're not allowed to do creative work, and that's because we can do it in service of God. But the rest of the week, we're supposed to be creative. We're supposed to think. We're supposed to read. We're supposed to understand. Maimonides says, if you want to increase your awe of God, study nature. Because if you study nature, you'll go, wow, what an amazing creation, therefore what an amazing creator, right? That's the Jewish perspective on it. So what he's done here is he's put a tree in the garden that opens their mind to free will and said, I'm not going to tell you to eat from this tree. I want you to decide if you want to live forever as an innocent or for 120 years as someone who understands what's happening. Can you do more with infinite innocence or finite knowledge? Right? So that's my pitch to you from how we should be reading it. Not as this great tragedy, but as the beginning of self-awareness. Is that?
So God is actually happy that they took the tree of good knowledge of good and evil.
This is the interesting thing. He doesn't say either. He's guarding his own emotional reaction. He doesn't say well done, and he doesn't say, oh, you're in trouble. Because for him, it's not about him. It's about them. He wants them to understand what they did. He says, Eicha, explain it to me. How did you get here? Right? And then, so he's saying this to the Adam. But the Adam isn't who he's really needs to talk to, right? So first he asks the person who kind of understands it. Right? The man was there. He heard the conversation between the snake. But he hasn't fully grasped it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be hiding. You know? Somehow he agreed to eat the fruit. But it hasn't settled with him because his eyes are open. He knows he's naked, but he's a bit confused as to what was going to happen. So, so he's going to speak to three characters, which we're going to do next week. He's going to speak first. He's going to speak to the man. Then he's going to speak to the woman.
The blame game.
Right, and then he's going to speak to the snake. Right.
Oh, okay.
And then only one of those characters gets the word curse. The man will not be told he's cursed. For him, the ground will be cursed, but only because compared to the Garden of Eden, everything is edible, everything's perfect, everything's growing everywhere. But now you're going to get a job as a farmer. You're going to have to dig the earth, right? But we're going to talk through what God actually says. The woman, what's she cursed with? Babies?
Pain.
Well, maybe, but childbirth is painful. Right, that's the thing. We don't tend to think. We think that babies are worth the pain. Right? We think that if you said, oh, Mazel Tov, you had a baby. Yeah, but it was painful. No mother has ever said, yeah, but it really hurt. No, they've gone, thank you. This is the greatest joy in my life right now, right? Until she becomes a teenager and starts talking back to me. This is the greatest thing in my life, right? But even the talking back is part of it. When you're 90 and you're thinking back about the difficult teenage years, you'll laugh. You'll laugh with your kid who's having her own baby who's talking back, right? So we don't consider babies to be a curse. We don't consider working hard to be a curse. We do consider having your legs banished by God to be a curse, but there's a very good reason for why the snake loses its legs. And it's not to punish the snake. It's to benefit the man and the woman. But we have run out of time, so we can't talk about it now. We'll have to talk about it next week.
Okay, but one last question visually. The trees are side together in the center of the garden. Is it together, side by side?
Right. So how did she never see it before?
How did she? Of that.
Yeah, and she never looked at it once.
Oh.
That's how holy she is. My mum's trying to call me.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, no worries. So next week.
Next week we'll see what God says. Okay. All right.
Okay,
have a great week.
Okay. Bye bye.
Lehitrod. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.